All right, so we're continuing the trend here. So we're again, there's gonna be a lot of extension off of things that we do in like exercise phys and biomechanics. Some of all of those classes kind of combine together in different aspects for coaching. And my apologies for being a touch late. It's game day for me. We have a scrimmage against Calistoga High School today. So that'll be highly entertaining. I'll get to see what the dynamic of our parents, fans are for prep here, so it's going to be entertaining. And getting all the details in. I'm going to go, I have to find my coaching board. I've got this big old board that's like this big. It's got two sides. It's got full-size court on one side, half court on the other, and like a whole area for notes that I take my rotation to, which I still have to come up with a rotation as well. But yeah, so we're going to talk about all the different energies. We're going to kind of glance over our different systems that you use and how we would train that, and then how we would train like slow twitch fibers. At the end, there are some charts that you may want to take a picture of for your own use. I thought they were really interesting, things that I would use with my team here. Beginning here is going to be a lot of extras that we've kind of gone over in this, like the books version here for when you take a quiz. But the end there is going to have some interesting things, I think. All right, so energy is the things you need to power your muscle and the capacity to do work. Your metabolism and metabolic rate. Yeah, when you're younger, you have a much higher metabolism and a much bigger metabolic rate. I don't know why that word's coming out today. ATP is the main energy source. Then the three energy systems, and everybody changes it just a little bit for every book. So you have, they call it the phosphagen system. I know in exercise phys, that's ATP PCR system. And then they have anaerobic and then aerobic system rather than the glycolic system and the oxygenated system. So every book's got a little bit different terminology, so just know when you run into your quiz and they ask you what are the three, or probably something like, which one of these is not one of the ATP generating systems, just know the terms that this book is doing are similar but different than what you're getting in like exercise phys. Interesting chart here. Calories per minute. Which one's the highest? Highest calorie burning per minute. Can you read that? Swimming. Not usually what you think of as a high calorie burning workout. It does. It uses the whole body at the same time. And notice it gives you a speed. So swimming at 3 miles per hour. And that's actually fairly quick. So that would be going a medium to fast tempo in your swimming speed. It's not quite a sprint, but if you're going 3 miles an hour in the pool, that's pretty quick. So that's why that's going to earn so much. Running at 10 miles per hour, that's also a fairly quick run. For me, that would be a sprint. I can't sprint that fast. 10 miles per hour, how many minute mile would that be? Is that like an 8-minute mile pace? 6-minute mile pace. I think that's a 6-minute mile. So that's a pretty good clip to run a 6-minute mile. So then they had running at 7.5. Oddly enough, wrestling is a fairly high calorie burning workout. Handball. Have you guys gotten to play handball yet? Oh man, they didn't play handball at Rio? Really? He's got the indoor soccer goals and everything to do it. It's one where you have to throw from outside the 3-point line. You have to jump over the line as you throw it. Most of the time is what people like to do. I know that was one of my favorite ones to do with high schoolers. So basketball, weightlifting, cycling, and oddly enough, men, well, not really. Men have higher calorie burning per minute than women. Sorry, it's the testosterone. All right, so a couple other terminologies here. So energy fitness is going to be the energy that it takes to do during fitness. Glycogen system is what's in your muscles, and they test that. And this one here had creatine is essential for ATP production in your power and speed. Again, we've kind of gone over that. Here's this book's version of your phosphagen system. So that is a depleted ATP PCR system, then turns into lactic acid. Anaerobic system is your carbohydrates turning into fuel. And that's again where you're going to get that anabolic threshold, which we're going to do in our exercise phys today. Your anaerobic system has at rest 67% of, wow, I can't type. Your energy is from fat, 33% is from carbs. And remember the RMR thing there where it's like between 0 and 1? That's the percentage of how much you're using carbs to fat. So this would add an interesting thing here. If an athlete weighs 90 kilograms, 198 pounds, and has a body fat of 15%, he would have 13.5 kilograms, 30 pounds of fat. So approximately 200-pound person at 15% body fat has approximately 30 pounds of fat. If so that said person could burn all of that fat, it would take 121,000 calories to burn 30 pounds of fat. That would mean you would have enough energy stored up in your body at 15% body fat to run 1,350 miles at a slow pace. You have a lot of energy stored up in your body, even with a fairly low body fat percentage. Or play tennis for 225 hours. So you could play tennis for 10 days straight. So basically, you're not going to run out of energy. That's what they're saying there. So your energy systems, you have your fast twitch and slow twitch fibers. Your fast twitch fibers have a fast oxidative glycolic system and then a fast glycolytic system. There you go. And then here's the priorities there. We've kind of gone over this before with your fast twitch, slow twitch, their aerobic capacities, aerobic, and then endurance. So the physiology of each energy system is going to depend on your sport. Interesting chart here I thought was interesting. So a weightlifting, jogging, throwing, 100 meters, 300 meter, and downhill skiing are going to use mostly your anaerobic system. And they actually have it kind of inversed here. So aerobic is on the left, anaerobic is on the right. How they are an inverse relationship. As you use more of one, you use less of another. So, for example, football is 70% anaerobic and 30% aerobic. Makes sense. You do like a 10-minute play. Baseball is more anaerobic. That makes sense. Your longer runs are going to be in that like 60% anaerobic. 50-50 would be basketball, soccer, and hockey. I don't see volleyball on here. Where do you guys think that would be? More anaerobic? Would you put it above? Would you put it like, closer to a baseball kind or football, gymnastics, wrestling? Where do you think volleyball would go? Really? I was going to say it would be closer to gymnastics. Because you go for longer times than football does. So you would end up breathing longer. I mean, I saw a Husker game the other day. They had an over 1 minute rally. Yeah, it is a sprint, either vertically or horizontally. I just kind of think there, because we got some volleyball players, it's not listed there. So different ways to measure your system, your body fat of your ways of measuring your kids. You could do body fat. You could do the skin fold test. I recommend just do the biomechanical thing that we did where you stand on the scale that's got metal on it. And you can buy the cheapest things from Amazon that like connect to an app, like just a Bluetooth scale, and it can have that bioelectrical impedance test in there. I've got one in my office right now that I used a year ago before I knew we had an industrial one. You could do a muscle fiber type, but that's going to be very painful. So I don't recommend doing that unless somebody really needs it. You could do your anaerobic fitness test. They recommend a 1.5 mile run. I like the 12-minute run personally better. That's why we do it in one of my classes. I forget which one. I think we did an exercise phys. Did we do that this year? Yeah, so exercise phys, they do a 1 or 12-minute run, mostly because if you're doing like a whole basketball team at the same time, then at least they all start and stop at the same time, rather than, maybe I should do that next year. Next year for my conditioning, when they actually know that they have to show up, doing that as part of my conditioning as a 12-minute run so they can gauge where they're at. So the anaerobic test would be any sprinting test, cycling test, swimming test, and I have some procedures here. Some of you guys talked about this one, is the vertical jump test. Tough to see down at the bottom. I should have made this a little bigger. So for 14 and under, so this is actually a way of testing their percentage of low to fast twitch fibers. Slow to fast twitch fibers. So if you have a age 15 or over male, if they're over 23 inches vertical, then they have a high percentage of fast twitch fibers. If they are under 17, then they are a low percentage of fast twitch fibers. So that was one of those, if you can't get it here, grab it out of your book and just take a picture of it and keep it for later so that you have this kind of information, kind of give your players a ballpark. So like if I was testing my basketball team, they should be all around age 15. I'd be like, all right, I want to see if you can get over 23 inches of vert. I was like, that's kind of the ballpark for if you need to be doing more plyometrics or not. So that's how I would take that. If somebody is under 17 on my team, I'd be like, you need to be doing plyometric workouts before practice or after practice, preferably after, so they can do that to try to increase their speed. Because your fast twitch fibers is going to determine how quick they are on their feet to get around somebody, how quick they are on defense. And we do have that test here. I can pull it out of, it's in one of these ballrooms. It used to be in the very far back one. I don't know where it is. It changes all the time. But you could do it very simply. This gal's doing it on a wall. So they just took, it looks like there is a yardstick taped to a wall and they're jumping to touch it. So not super difficult there. Some other ones here. This would be your 1.5 mile test. If they do it so I'll just take the basketball players I have. Most of them are between 13 and 19. Better be under 19 or I'm going to get in trouble. So if they are above 9 minutes and 40 seconds, that's pretty quick. That's a 6.25 mile. I had them all running at 2 minutes a lap, so that's an 8-minute mile pace. So if they're over 12, then I would be like, you need to be running more often. If they're under this number, then I'd be like, you're probably good to make it through a basketball game. So some interesting guidelines for running tests here. So this would be that you're going to find a moderately upward sloping road. Oh, I love this, golf fairway. Would probably be a good one. So you want to kind of going upward. You're going to mark a line where they start and another line that would be 10 meters from that starting point. So that's 30 feet or 10 yards or 10 meters. The athlete uses the first 10 yards to get to maximum speed, and you're going to start that stopwatch as the athlete crosses the second line. Then you record the distance traveled at the end of a 30 seconds on, and they call it the fast form. I'll show you that in a second. And yes, you make sure they know that when the 30 seconds are up, because otherwise they're just going to keep on running. So basically, they run 10 meters to get up to speed, and then from there, how far can they get in 30 seconds? So it's probably going to be about a 35-second sprint is what it kind of ends up being. Yeah, I could totally see coaches letting them run. Other players for sure would let them run farther. Cycling test, same concept. Find a moderately upward slope. You could probably find a street that would do that pretty easily, or a sidewalk, preferably one with a nice bike lane. Mark a line where they start and another line 100 meters away from that starting point. So it would look kind of like this. And then you would go again for 30 seconds on the bike. So these are just ones that you could do really quick and easy. So say they're kind of on an upward slope here. Start the stopwatch here. How far can they get in 30 seconds? So you could do this as a swimming test as well. So you need to find an upward sloping swimming pool so that they can swim at a slightly upward grade. Have the swimmers... Nobody paying attention. Think about that for a second. Find a pool with an upward sloping water. Thank you. That was my joke my one joke for this entire class. But in the serious part, have them start in the water, push off the wall instead of jumping in, and then record how fast they go in 30 seconds. So it'd probably be better if you had an Olympic-sized pool, because a good swimmer I can swim across a 25-meter pool in like 20 seconds. So they would have to turn and flip. So if you had an Olympic-sized pool, it'd probably be better. That would be 50 meters. Ours is 25 out here. So here's that fast form that they had. I almost had you guys do this. I thought this might have been an entertaining lab day for this class. But this would be a way to assess. I'd have one of these for each player or something similar. So you'd have their body fat here. You would do your vertical jump test to see what their muscle fiber types are. You do your aerobic testing of either a run time. You do your anaerobic time, and this is that 30 seconds test that we were just talking about. You can also do all your flexibility testing up there. I've got some of those in here. I actually did them with Mr. Lee upstairs here the other day. He was testing his students, and so I went up there to see how flexible I was. All I know is I was better than Matt was, the teacher up there. You could also do the a lot of these are also going to be similar to a California Fitness Gram test, like the sit and reach, and then can you touch your hands behind your shoulders here like this? Those are all ones that are a part of that. And then they have a whole bunch more over here for strength testing, a 10 rep estimate on a bench press, chest press. And you can use as many of these as you want. I don't think I could get through this in one class period, but this would be something I could do with a one-on-one kind of, if I was training somebody one-on-one as a coach, this is some of the things I could probably test them with. So this is to give you an idea of things you could do with a player or a team. You'd have one for each player. So I like this one. Your training pyramid is what they call it. So you would have your aerobic foundation, so going from 70 to 84%. Your lactate threshold training would be 85 to 90. That's pretty precise. And your anaerobic threshold or training would be 90 to 94, and your VO2 max testing. So those are all interesting ones there. You'd probably need either a treadmill or a bike with a heart rate monitor, smartwatches. Smartwatches are getting better than they used to be. I mean, if you took them before they got Apple Watches, the tech in watches went so fast once Apple started getting into it. But before that, you had Polar watches. Polar makes the chest straps we use for our VO2 max tests up there. Your target heart rates. So this is one you're going to need to do in your homework. And we will also do your own here at the end of class. So your age, so let's just take a 16-year-old. You're going to have their intensity of max heart rate would be 85%. So their resting heart rate example would be 58. So 220 minus your age is 204. And then you would take your exercising heart rate is going to be your max heart rate minus your resting heart rate to get that 85%. And so then your your training target heart rate is the number that you're trying to go for. So a 16-year-old to go at 85% needs to have their heart rate at 182. That's my max heart rate right there. Being pushing 40 here. So 220 minus your age, 185 is about where mine should be. Went over this a little bit there. Give you a couple seconds to look at the different intensities that they want there. So times per week in the off season at this intensity, preseason at what intensity, during the season. All right, so different types of exercise. Again, we pretty much know all of it, but these are ones that you would want to put into your practices at some point. Ideally, you would actually have like a 30-minute strength and conditioning time with your team, and then an hour and a half of practice. Like if I had my choice, I would have my basketball team practice for an hour and a half, and then I'd have them in the weight room or whatever kind of training that I feel they need for the last 30 minutes of practice. And that would be more on their own or with a separate like strength and conditioning coach. I've got some videos of, let's see, I've got Nebraska volleyball, I've got Syracuse basketball where I've got like 5 practices. And like Syracuse basketball, for example, has a strength and conditioning coach that warms them up, stretches them out, and does conditioning with them before practice. And then all the other coaches take over and run actual practice. But I mean, that's a big Division I program where they've got strength and conditioning coach full-time separate outside of their normal coaching staff. Plus they've got grad students that are working on whatever grad programs there are, so grad assistants, and my goodness. It gets pretty intense there. So you would choose these kind of things there for that 30 minutes of exercise training that you would do outside of your practice time. Is probably where you would do that. I love, this is one of those, these are those 2 charts I was saying you may want to take a picture of. So exercise duration for an aerobic foundation. So if you have a continuous movement of the sport under 10 seconds, so a volleyball program, or let's say, I wouldn't say basketball is probably going to be closer to that. So volleyball, football is going to be in that 10-second thing. So they would need to run 10 to 15 miles a week to have an aerobic foundation to be able to participate in that sport. I coach basketball, so mine would be in that 2 to 15 minute range. So they would need to be able to run 20 to 30 miles per week, probably at whatever pace they want. I would just say as long as it's a jog, just more than a walk. And if you were doing this as a swim team, whatever their event is, you would have, these are the amount of hours you would want them to be in the pool. Swimming for this much time. Yeah, cut off the bottom down there. For football, use miles for sports such as football, soccer, tennis, track. So I just like this one. It gives you kind of a ballpark. So like when I'm doing my conditioning weeks next year, I'm going to look at this and go, all right, 2 to 15 minutes. They need to do 20 to 30 miles during my conditioning weeks. So I have them for 3 mornings is what we did. So I would have them run probably 2 miles for those 3 and tell them you need to run 2 miles a day for the other 4 days a week that you're not with me. And that would get them that 14, 15 miles there, which is still probably not enough. So some other interesting training methods here. We've kind of talked about all these already in many other areas, but you just need to pick which one you want to use for your group. And how often per week you want them to go that hard. Or, I love these fartlek trainings. It's pretty much going above a jog to a sprint, and you kind of do whatever you want. I would call this like running in the back 40. You don't have to have a true pace, but when you're going uphill, you're working harder. When you're going downhill, you're going less. And it's definitely a change from the usual run on the track, run sprints on the track, run ladders or suicides. I hate that word, but ladders in your, different kinds of training there where it's all flat. You do have to be careful of overtraining, and man, we go over that in great detail in Exercise Phys. But just knowing the things that you're watching for, probably the one that you're going to see the most often would be when their performance is, they're working hard all the time, and their performance just all of a sudden tanks. It's really, did anybody watch the basketball game yesterday? Man, did Austin play well. It was like a breakout game. I hope he continues that. Like, that dude was on fire. I heard their coaches, I had to leave at halftime to go put my kid in the bathtub so that he was ready for bed right after the game. But we stayed up and watched it at the house there. But if, say, Austin, who just all of a sudden, he's been in there working. I've seen him shooting around with the shooting machine. He's been working hard. And all of a sudden, he's been on this upward climb. All of a sudden, he just tanks. Then I'd be like, okay, I'd be looking for this kind of stuff. I'd ask him, how are you sleeping at night? How are you feeling depressed in any way, shape, or form? And there's a nicer way of asking that, obviously. I'd also be checking on, are your muscles sore all the time? And not because you played futsal last night. Headaches, those are the things I would just start asking. How are you feeling? How are you taking care of yourself? To see maybe it is overtraining. I'm like, are you working out? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I work out 7 days a week. I'm shooting 1,000 shots a day. And they might be getting to the point of overtraining. All right, so the last thing we're going to do today is, is that big enough for you to see? I'm going to adjust it here. So break out a piece of paper or something you can write on. And at the bottom here are some equations that you're going to need to use for... They are. I just wanted to make sure you could do the... Yeah. Oh, there's 21. So I want you to try yours here, and I think you have to make up some for your athlete. I would just take whatever age your athlete would be and do that there. So I just want you to calculate your own training target heart rate.